Didn't mean to do that. I'm okay now. We're good.
We're back.
Lesson learned.
We
If
may
you
have
press
we may
the
have two
record
videos
button,
now, but that's fine.
because it looks like you're recording, you might have pressed it for everybody. So don't do that. Okay. Uh, Talking about being an MC. Of course, I'm a storyteller, so I got to start with the story. He was the best MC I'd ever seen. His name was Dan Keating. And Dan Keating from Illinois. I was probably at my second or third National Storytelling Festival. And he got up there on the stage. I don't remember who was in that show. It was probably one of the times that it was a Olio, so there were probably 8 people. And Dan Keating introduced them. And I wrote down in my journal, one day I want him to introduce me. I want to be talked about like that. It wasn't that I wanted to be on that stage. That was something I'd wanted, but not at that moment. At that moment, I wanted somebody to introduce me like he introduced everyone. Like they were special and important, and he was kind. It's like, that's what I want. I never forgot that. And when I got a chance to be around him when he was introducing other people and being introduced himself, I told him that. And he said, well, maybe one of these days. It hasn't happened yet. Dan Keating has not introduced me. I've had the opportunity to introduce him. And afterwards he said, I love the way you introduce people. And I said, it's because I wanted to be like you. I love Dan Keating for that one thing that he gave me, that he made me understand what it meant to be an MC in a way that I could not have known. Another great MC I've had the honor is my co-founder of the Artists Standing Strong Together and friend, Donna Washington. Donna Washington got on the stage and she was introducing me as a character in history. And I told her specifically, don't introduce me as Sheila, introduce me as the character. And she actually listened. She actually did not mention my name. She actually did what I asked her to do. And then after the program, she got on stage and couldn't remember my real name. But she quickly admitted to the mistake, asked me for assistance at that moment, and said, and this is no, I have forgotten her name. This was so good, I can't undo it. And I thought, wow, she's really honest right now. But her honesty was a compliment. And I appreciated that, because she could have just fumbled and fumbled and fumbled and said nothing and not admitted that she didn't know anything and said something like, oh, you all know who she is. And I would not have felt that love, that care, that willingness. Then there's the other side, okay? Keating, Linda is telling me to say it correctly. It's Keating, not Keating. Is that correct? Okay. Mistakes. I am all about admitting mistakes. Keating. And Linda would know because she used to live in Illinois, so she knows Doug I think very well, if I recall correctly. Then there's the other time I got to have an introduction. He was the MC. My job that day was actually not to perform. I had been working with a group of storytellers. They were in storytelling class number 2, level 2. And in this particular level, the end result was they would be on stage and they would be doing storytelling, sharing their stories that they'd been working so diligently on, so wonderfully on. They would do that on stage, and they would do it as part of a storytelling series. As a matter of fact, my friend who was the producer for the series, when I said I had some students that I'd like to see if they could be on the stage, a couple of them, she said, I'll give you the whole show. The whole show will just be your students. Like, yay! She said, but our MC would still like to be able to be the MC. I went, oh, okay. I didn't have a choice. He had been problematic in the past. He had found out that I was a storyteller by profession. And he couldn't get over that. So he kept trying to impress me with the way that he spoke on the stage. And so I just let it go, smiled like you do when you're like, please stop. But on this day, he was introducing my babies, my darling ones. He was to be quick and brief and say what they had asked him to say, get off the stage. Did I happen to tell you he was trying to be a stand-up comedian as well? He gets on the stage. He tells everyone they're welcome to come. And then he says, I always start with the story. Ooh. Groan number one. And then he begins, you all know my wife has been pregnant and we had our baby. We had the baby. No one told me what it was going to be like to have to take a woman in to have a baby. They should tell you these things. And on and on. And almost, not quite 20 minutes later, he introduces the first person. Oh, yeah, we have some people coming there from a class. Sheila Arnold, who's a national sell, blah, 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 blah. She does a class, and these are some of her students. The first student is blah, 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 blah. That was it. My class was watching as I went from being Negro, colored, African American, to something else. My head was not doing good things. My eyes, my arms were crossed. I was just dying. And I knew I had to be polite and kind. I was having my babies going to go up on stage, but they were all looking at me going, oh. Afterwards, they told me they were expecting any moment I was going to get on the stage, put the microphone cord around his neck and drag him off. But it's fine. It was horrific. Horrific. And I never wanted to see that happen to anybody else again. I am grateful that my class trusted me. And so they felt like because I had shared and had said such good things about them to them individually, they still felt good. But they felt rushed onto the stage and really like they weren't important, just he was. So that's some of the best and some of the worst. And I'm certain all of us have seen some of the best and some of the worst. And we could have stories to tell, which you're going to be able to do in a little while, but not to me. You're going to be telling it in smaller groups. So just be ready for that. So we're going to talk about being an MC. First, why is it important? Just honestly, you set the tone. You set the tone for the rest of that program. If you are kind-hearted and you're eager and you're glad to be there and enthusiastic, even if it is 9 o'clock in the morning, the audience will rise to your level. If you didn't want to be there, it's wet, you're rainy, you're tired, it is now 9 o'clock at night, the audience will go down to your level. When you are on Zoom and people see you in the box, and you wave to them and you speak to them, even if you don't see their picture, they feel community. When you are on Zoom and it is dead silent, everybody's wondering what's going to happen next. They're going to feel not community and maybe even leave before the program starts. The MC sets the tone for the program. Everyone here needs to hear this. If you are an MC, you are the tone setter. You're the one that helps. You are the most important, unimportant person in the group. I'll say that again. You are the most important, unimportant person in the group, in the audience, and on the stage. You are important because you set the tone. And because people do want to hear from you, you are unimportant because here is the deal. Write this down in as many words as you need to have it. The show is not about you. MCing is not about you. Those are 3 words, not about you. Please put it somewhere so you always see it forever. It's not about you. I love you, not about you. When you MC, you are taking on the fact that it's not about you. But I thought I was important. Not really. It's not about you. You are important, but the show is not about you. I think I've said that at least a prerequisite 6 amount of times. So you would remember that. If there's nothing you remember from this entire presentation, remember Sheila Arnold saying to you, it's not about you. Because you are now in my class and I have all of your names and I can follow you all around. If I happen to see you emceeing and it becomes about you, I will quickly send you a direct message and say, just a reminder, it's not about you. And because you're in this class, and if I see you emceeing and you're doing a great job, I'm going to let you know that was a great job. I'm glad it wasn't about you. Just beware. Now, I am just about to hit the button that is going to send you a very important document. This document is by Milbrey Birch and Mary Gay Ducey. And if you know anything about these, if you don't know who these women are, I will tell you they are powerhouses not to be ignored in any way, shape, or form. They are storyteller extraordinaires, but they're also MC extraordinaires. They have written a document called And Without Further Ado, The Alchemy Art of MCing. That's part of a class that they teach. And they've written the MC's 10 Commandments. They have written the MC's 7 Deadly Sins. They have written to us about, they've also written to us about the Zen teller's quick way of enlightenment, how we as storytellers can be kind to our MCs. This is a class that they have taught for years. They used to title it The Neglected Art of MCing or Who Does What to Whom. They taught this class with help from Rex Ellis and Jim May. They started that back in the early 90s. And even in 2019 at the National Storytelling Network, the last time we gathered together, and for the NSN, they spoke and did this actual workshop in Fremont when they were doing it there. And they continue to do this workshop around the country and for organizations. And I asked them because my friend Sarah said, Mary Gay and Milbrey do something, I'll share it with you. And at the bottom of their document, it says, please ask us if you can use this and please acknowledge us. And of course, because we all read those lines, I did. And they kindly said I could share that. And so I am literally pressing the button so that it will come to each of your emails in just a second. Please do not read this during our session. This is the extra things for you to be able to keep for yourself for after this particular show, because I'm not going to go through it step by step. Has everybody got that? I gotta go back over here and see faces. Everybody got that? Yes? All right. It's lovely. I've pressed the button. It is yours. Enjoy reading it. It's a wonderful way to get this information. I also will remind people that someone else you might want to look at is Susan Klein's book, which is entitled Apprenticeship. Let me make sure I get the correct title there. Ethics, Apprenticeship, Etiquette, Courtesy, and Copyright. It was written in 2005 by the wonderful and amazing Susan Klein, and it is just absolutely fabulous. I went online to see if I could find out where to purchase it at. I did not find it purchasable at Amazon, although they listed it, but they said they didn't know where you could get it. And so I think you can still contact Susan. If you just heard my phone ring a little bit ago, it was Susan calling me back. And so I didn't have a chance to ask her if she still had copies of it herself. But I will say that you can purchase it at her, probably you can contact her and purchase it. That didn't come out as a link, Susan Klein's website, but you can look up Susan Klein's website. She does a fantastic job of how we're supposed to be as storytellers, and she has a whole section on there about emceeing as well. So I really encourage that. Just a reminder that there have been people that have been teaching this for a long time, and we need to hear what they have to say. And I hope that what I can just add to what they've already done is the fact that we're in a new era of being an MC. So you're going to get some of that new era stuff. So before I go any further, I just want to make sure, just check in and see any questions so far. Okay. Lovely. All right, moving on. We're doing great. Excellent. All right, here's some basics. And so right now I'm going to talk about basics of the most important people in the entire process. And that is the people that are the storytellers themselves, the presenters themselves. Now, this is not just for storytelling. This is how you MC a workshop. Well, that may be too, but how you MC a round table, how you MC a presentation of people, particularly if there's more than one person at the presentation. For whatever reason, we need to have these. So if you're not MCing for storyteller specific, know that you can do the same things for whatever type of MC. You make adjustments as you need to. When you are getting ready to MC people, try to get their names as early as possible as you can. So, and then arrive at the place where you're going to be preparing, and encourage the storytellers to arrive a half hour at least earlier so that you can, see them face to face, greet them. There is nothing like being a storyteller and going, I'm going to be on stage. Oh my gosh, am I ready? And all the things that go through our stomachs as we're getting ready to perform. And then you arrive at the place and you don't know what to do. You don't know if I'm supposed to get there. The same thing happens online and when we come to a program. If you're a storyteller and you're there before the MC is, or the host for the show is, sometimes you can do that on Zoom. They'll allow that. You still don't know exactly what to do. So you want to arrive about a half hour early to whatever program you want to do. Ask them to arrive as well. And then you want to meet and you want to listen and see how they're doing. How are you doing? Things going okay? If they look like they're not feeling well, you all right? If you see they're with them personally, then you be Linda Gorham. You just take care of them. Linda Gorham introduced me one day, and first thing in the morning, and I started to talk and I coughed or something like that, or I got tongue-tied. And Linda jumped up from her seat where she was standing, grabbed a bottle of water, jumped up the stairs. Never saw her hit the stairs. Jumped up the stairs, came in, put the bottle of water right on the stool behind me and jumped down. I was like, well, go ahead. I even probably said that because I usually would. And thank you. Isn't Linda Gorham, I think I did say, isn't Linda Gorham awesome? She is amazing. And, but yeah, you just check on your folks. You make sure that they're okay. You listen to how they're doing. If they say, I'm really nervous, I know it kind of gets nervous, but I know you're going to do great. And this is stuff that you do online as well as in person as we get back to that. Do some homework on those who you introduce. Find out they have a website. Sometimes you get to go to a program and they have all that information already written out for you. You get to know the names of every single person. You know what their website is. You know what they're selling. You know what their next program is, the title of their show, everything. Sometimes you don't have all that. And so you have to ask them. And so you have to do some homework. Find out who your people are. Find out something interesting you find out about them. If you listen to Jessica Pizzatelli Robinson, who leads Better Said Than Done, she usually has a question that she asks each person. A question like, what was the favorite book you had when you were such and such an age? What was your favorite, anything? But it might, and that is completely connected to whatever the theme is. So, if you do that, make sure you're putting a theme together as you do that. But do some homework on the people you're about to introduce. Ask about name pronunciations. His name is not Antonia Roca. It's not. It's Hosha. So you want to make sure that you say it correctly, just like I messed up with Dan Ketting rather than Keating. We have to ask questions and try to get people's names correct. And when I'm writing down, if I don't have the name already pronounced out for me, put out for me, then what I make sure I do is I write down that I say that again for me so I can make sure I'm saying it right. And I phonetically put it out there so that I have it. I want to make sure I do that. And I practice with the person a couple of times so that I'm going to be able to do that well. Some folks that do performances, they ask what the storyteller wants to have said about them. Do you have a new CD coming up, an upcoming program? Can you online? And I will say, I think that's really lovely. And going up when you're on particularly at a festival or, even a smaller house concert, that's actually really, I think is really good. On Zoom, I would say that I prefer, after the person has told the story, that you ask them that question, because then people are more inclined to even want to buy the CD if they like the story and want to hear about the upcoming program once they've heard the person. But beforehand, that's a lot of information beforehand, and we haven't even heard the person yet. So we don't know if we want their CD or not. And by the time we finish the story, we've forgotten what that is. Yes, it should be put in the chat as well, but afterwards you might want to say, tell me again what that program is coming up. It's a really great way to do it. I got to give better said than done. Big props for doing it like that. Remind folks when you see them about their time limits. So glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here on time. How are you doing? Do you have any questions? Okay, great. You're going to do great. Just a reminder, you have 14 minutes. Is there any particular way I can help you with that 14 minutes? And someone might say, that's a really good line, by the way. Is there any way I might be able to help you with that 14 minutes or whatever that time is? You're not telling them that you're going to do it. Some people, they're fine. They got it covered. If there's something on stage, or they have on their computer, they have the time in the lower corner, and they're checking on it every now and then. But remind them of their time so that you can. And then if they ask for some help, try to give it to them as much as possible as you can. I will say this: when we're on Zoom, if you're on a webinar, nobody can see you if the storyteller is highlighted. But when you're in a meeting, you can actually see if the host or MC, if they start counting down. And if you're not in a slam, nobody needs to see that. So you might want to work on a different way that you can do that and such like that, so that you can do the countdown. But when people see you doing the countdown, guess what they start focusing on if they can just happen to see you above the head of the spotlight? Okay, because I'm pretty certain most of you can see above my spotlight that there are other people. Is that correct? So if Sarah, give me the 1, 2, 3. Just go 3, 2, 1 with your fingers. So y'all can see Sarah, and she is now a problem. So she is now my distraction. And so as a storyteller, I'm like, okay, over there. But the reality is everybody else is over there. They might be looking at her as well. So be creative about how you do that if people ask for you to do that. Okay. Remind folks about time limits. Everyone who's about to perform is a rock star. And everyone who's listening is a rock star. You are, the least important person in the room, except you get to acknowledge all the rock stars around you. Judy Sema wrote this to me after last week's Story Blowout 2020. I had so much fun. 28 storytellers, a bunch of youth. I was having a blast. I didn't want to speak for a whole day. I did, but it was wonderful. I had a great time. But Judy Sema was one of the things she wrote. She said, what I appreciated most was how you, talking about me, Sheila, how you introduced each storyteller as if we were superstars. And your comments made me feel appreciated and admired. I'm sure the other tellers felt the same way. If there's anything I'm looking for as an MC, is the comment I want to get. You made me feel like I was the superstar. I felt appreciated, admired, that you saw me. It's the reason we tell. So people can hear our stories and see us and see that our story is important. You as the MC need to make sure that your folks feel like superstars. I'll start with the audience first. When the audience comes into your Zoom or wherever, speak a moment to them, thank them. You might have a list of things you got to say. When you're on in live, they give you a list of things you got to say. Say it, but also ask them to relax and laugh. Remind them that this is a joyful time or a serious time or a horrifying time. Remind your audience that you're so grateful that they came. On Zoom, if you do not see a person's face, if all you see is their name, still say hello to them if you can. Speak to them. Remind them that you still see them. Sometimes people have that off because they just They just need to breathe or they need to walk around and do things. But boy, it feels good when someone knows I really am there. And your storytellers, your presenters, they are your rock stars. You get the honor to introduce them, the privilege. You never knew you were going to have this privilege. I don't care how much you know them. You get the honor and the privilege. Now, don't use those words every single person that you do. Okay. I mean, make up some other words. That'd be good. I'm delighted. I mean, y'all, I am constantly, I speak from my heart is one. And then even if I haven't seen the person yet, I'm not going to lie and say, let me see, who haven't I seen today? I don't know. I don't know who I haven't seen. So I don't know what I would say if I hadn't seen you. I don't think I've seen you, Andy Loffer. So I might say, Andy is coming to us today and he's from blah, blah, blah place, which I don't know yet. And, but Andy, I am so excited to hear Andy because he's going to be a new voice for my ears, just like he's a new one from you. But from his website, I already figured out that Andy does blah, 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 blah. And so both of us, both you and I, both you, the audience, many of you haven't heard him, and we get the joy to be able to hear him today. Andy Loffer. And Andy's over there. How did my name get in this? Why is my name? It's because you're A, baby, because, you up there with the A's. So that's why your name has got picked up out of there. And so, but you want to make even people you haven't heard yet. They are your superstars. You do want to speak about them with honor and delight and encouragement so that when they walk in, that they feel that. And if you do know them a little bit more, that's great. One of the things that's on the deadly sins list is just because you know somebody doesn't mean you do that private thing, like, remember, Eleanor, when you and I were talking about that story you did? Guys, you're going to love her. Oh, Eleanor, that was so much fun. Go do your thing. And everybody's like, well, I didn't get to do that. What'd they do? I want that story. So leave your inside jokes off the stage, out of the picture. They're just you. You type those to each other. All right. Like what Oni wrote down there. She said, be sincere. Be sincere. I mean, be honest. It just enjoy who you're about to hear and such. And so I really that it I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to really, I want you to really think about this. How can I make sure that this storyteller, this presenter knows I truly am glad that they are presenting. I truly am happy they are here. And I really want them to know this, that what they say is important. Work on that in your heart. Be real about it. And then afterwards, particularly on Zoom, say a couple words. Say something about what they say. Sometimes you can do that when you get on stage. I try to and say, oh, that was thank you so much. Thank you so much, Newt, for sharing that with us today. That was great. Newt Rary, guys. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Sometimes I have to get to the next thing. You have to do that online too. But if all possible, ask that your tech host or yourself that you put a person that the two of you kind of are on the stage at the same time. Like you put yourself, if you make sure you have all your updated settings, then and your folks are in speaker view already, you'll see two people side by side. You might see Nina right beside me right now. And Nina's just awesome. So I get to introduce Nina. Nina's going to be an MC for me next week. And she's probably wondering, when are you going to send me the information so I can do all the things you just told me to do? So I got to make sure that happens. But then I can look over it. I mean, I can still look in the camera, but say, oh, Nina, that story about your mom just reminds me so much that sometimes we do have to use the things that we've been given to be able to take care of our families. Thank you, Nina. That gives me such joy. It's a simple thing. Hopefully Nina feels like a rock star. I don't know if she does or not, but she is one of my rock stars. I love her. And then it's a simple remove spotlight and then goes back to you and then goes to the next person. It's a simple way, but I will tell you, I love doing that. And here's the reality. there's something else that, sometimes on live programs, we tend not to let our emotions get too overwhelming. I think that we've been doing that a little wrong. Because I will tell you, if you followed me at all, you have watched me cry. Programs. I have cried. Last week, Jennifer Strauss told a story. I am so glad. I mean, at one point, I had to turn my camera off because I was sobbing. This story was just gorgeous. And it wasn't because it was a sad story, it was a beautiful story, but it meant so much to me. I was sobbing. Now, I don't want to go up on the stage and or come back as an MC and me need therapy. We don't need to do that. Don't put your therapy on at that time. But I didn't completely wipe away the tears because that's truth. Her story brought me someplace. And I needed to let the audience know that her story brought me to someplace, not so the audience goes, oh, poor Sheila, because it's not about me. I wanted her to know, thank you. That story meant so much. Oh, it touched my heart. And I will not forget that, Jennifer. I'm hoping that others will remember this as well. Jennifer was high as a kite. And she should have been. But it's okay. And sometimes you die laughing. Dr. Joel Ying did this thing about this leprechaun that went to leprechaun school and became a godmother. It went to godmother school. It was a leprechaun that went to godmother school. Hilarious. I was choking. I was laughing so hard. I could not stop laughing. So when he got back on, I'm like, okay, I'm still laughing. But you know what? I just went, oh, hold a second. I got to laugh a little bit more. I got to get it out. If you would like to unmute and laugh with me, please feel free to do such. And we all laughed. We had a great laugh. It was fun. We had it good. Sometimes when you get up on the stage, even when you're in person, there's times where you just need to say, let's just take a moment to breathe that story in. Let's just take a moment. And you can do the same. What's the difference on Zoom, though, is everybody's is front row seat with you as the MC. So they're really feeling what you feel. And they're really connecting to that. So if you come up and you have no emotion after something, that also shows. Well, Tina, that was just a LIFO. Thank you. Now we have Tina's like, well, that didn't work out so well, did it? Here's the deal. You hated the story. You're pretty much like, I don't even like the storyteller right now. Never, 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 never do it. Never act like that. Ever, ever. Don't dismiss a person. You just don't do that. I have watched storytellers do that. You never dismiss the person so you can run to the next one. Just don't do it. Here's the other thing I suggest. When they come up to you afterwards and say, how did my story go? Say, I love the fact that you were on the stage. And don't give specifics right then. Now, if it's somebody you know really, really well, you might want to do that. But even someone you know really, really well, when it's vulnerable and you're on stage and you are vulnerable, that is the time you can cut a person apart. And it's usually the people that love you the most that can do the most damage. So tell them, well, I just want you to know, I'm so glad you spoke today. Can we make a time tomorrow and we talk a little bit more? I really enjoyed you being here. But don't do it that night. Can y'all hear me? I got really quiet there, sorry. But don't do it that night. Give them a moment. Let them fly. Because if you're anything like me, you're going home thinking about everything you did wrong. Because you saw that one person who's 96 years of age, just been walking around all day long, had their dinner just a moment before you started talking, and they fell asleep. And that's the only person you're thinking about. Oh, my story was so bad. Yeah. And then that one person fell asleep. The entire audience standing on its feet. All you remember is the one person that fell asleep. That's what we are as storytellers. So be kind to people. And that's one of the ways to do it. One other thing before we get started with some other stuff that we're going to do. Oops. Don't do that. Whatever just went on my computer. Don't do that. All right. Two things. Sorry. Three. Sorry. They are your babies. Your storytellers are yours. When they have been put in your hands, they are yours. They're your family. They're yours. Before the performance, during the performance, and after the performance. Just like Linda gave me water, and Hannah Harvey, when she introduced me one time, she made me feel so comfortable. She knew it. She wanted me to make sure I knew how to stand and what I was doing. I love that. They are your babies. You take care of them. You watch over them. And you make sure that they know if they're coming up next as much as possible. And in the world of Zoom, if I have somebody like last night, we had our TGIF, and one of our folks was from Peru, and she kept coming out in and out, and we couldn't hear words. Why would I want her to continue doing that? I need to stop. I need to make it so that when she speaks, she is heard, or give her the opportunity to do it on another day. And so I just stopped her, Maria. And she's like, yes. I said, we're missing words. And so we just gave her an opportunity to find another thing. We went to a break and we came back. She told the story and we heard it from beginning to end. And it was wonderful. Take care of your babies. This is from the 10 Commandments from Mary Gay and from Milbury. Thou shalt not read aloud from the program. I will say that again. Thou shalt not read aloud from the program, nor consult thine clipboard, scrap of paper, or palm except discreetly when effecting an introduction. Note, discreet cribbing of a clipboard just isn't possible. Just so you know. I agree. Please don't just read out what you have. And on Zoom, it is absolutely critical that you look at your camera, because that's how I'm looking at you. I'm hoping that most of you, if not all of you, feel like I am looking at you in your eyes. Like I'm right there with you. You and me, baby. That's just you. All these other people, I don't know why they're even here. It's just me and you. That's all it is. All right? So look in the camera. Try to get your people on Zoom to look in the camera. Because what they want to do is look at each one of you. Oh, look at you. You all look so cute. Look, there's Andy. I get to see what he looks like. Oh, that's wonderful. There's Lois. And I'm looking all around here. Y'all know I ain't looking at you, right? I ain't looking at a damn one of you. I'm looking over here, all this other way. And there goes Nancy. Hi, Nancy. How are you? But Nancy doesn't know I'm really looking at her, because if I was looking at her, I'd say, hi, Nancy. How are you? Look at the camera. It feels weird. It looks weird. When it looks weird for you, it does not look weird for the audience. What looks weird for the audience is when you start talking to the audience down here. Right. Another reminder, I'm going to say this and get on to doing some other stuff. The show is not about you. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. You do not sell your things at the show. You do not say, when I told that story, I did it such and such a way. You never do that. As a matter of fact, you're not the storyteller, so you don't tell a story. Unless you are asked to tell a story. And even then, you might want to find something else. A different way. Get the audience involved. I had one time I don't remember what happened. Well, I was on stage one time, we had the train coming through. And if you're at Jonesboro, if you've experienced Jonesboro, you have the train. You wait for the train. When are you going to get hit by the train and be an MC and get hit by the train? So the train came through. This young man had just started, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have you stop for just a little bit. We're going to wait for the train to come through. And then what am I supposed to do? All right. Well, we started dancing. All of us learned how to do the floss. I was up there and I said, I know what we can do. I know we have some young people been watching y'all. Do y'all know how to do the floss? Because I think I know how to do the floss. Oh, we had a great time. We had people up in the audience. We had old people, young people. And these young people come on stage and embarrassed me with the floss. They told me how old I was and I kicked them off my stage. I mean, we just had a great time. We had so much fun. And then by the time he came back up, the train was gone. The audience was ready. And I said, feel free to start over if you'd like to. Your timing will just start over. And it was just wonderful. If you have a situation, I had a wonderful time and had a storyteller who was telling in the middle of his story, his entire computer shuts down. Boom, gone, done, not there. We didn't have a chance to like, oh, I think it's leaving. No, it was gone. And so it's like, oh, I think he might be having a few difficulties. Do I tell a story? No, it's not my job to tell a story. We want to keep his story going. So, well, I do tell a little story. I say, oh, he was talking about Florida, and I remember going to Florida, and then it hits me. How many of y'all have ever been to Florida to Disney World? Tell me your favorite memory about Disney World over in the chat. Oh my gosh, the people were throwing up stuff and how they got stuck in It's a Small World after all for an hour, which is just my insanity. Okay, and I do not know. That would probably be my version of hell right there. A small world for a half hour. But they were sharing things. So by the time he came back and had a whole new computer and a whole new setup and a whole new place, he saw what we were doing. We finished doing what we were doing so he could take a breath. He realized we were still where he left us. And he got back into the story. So look for other ways that aren't necessarily a story to keep your audience involved whenever you need to step in. But you're never selling your product. You're never sharing your email address. It's not your website. That's not what we're doing. And if you do that, if you are doing those things, stop. It's not about you. It's not your time at all. All righty. Whew. Any questions for me before we're going to go to our next thing? Look over here. Linda, did you have a question? Please feel free to unmute. Yes.
I loved it when you did the two people. You did two people on a spotlight.
Yes.
Is that something only the person who initiates the Zoom can do?
Whoever is a co-host can do that. A host or a co-host. Yeah.
Okay. So there's something that is called a double spotlight?
Shags, you should be able to do it because I've worked with other co-hosts before that have done that for me. So how do you spotlight the MC and the storyteller? So first things you do, for instance, I am currently spotlit. So I'm going to move my spotlight. I'm going to play with Linda here. If you go to the person's picture, you can do one or two things. Go to the participant list as a co-host or yes, it should be added to co-host. If you're updated, if your computer has the most updated, most current update on Zoom, everyone should be able to do this if you have more than two people in a room. So you go over to the person's name and participants and press more, or you go over to the top right-hand corner of a person's picture and you'll see the three little dots. Click the three little dots and it says spotlight for everyone, you spotlight, okay? And then to get the other person, you go back either to the participant list or you go to those three little dots and it says add spotlight. Okay. And then I go back and those three over on the participant list to more or those three little dots in the corner and I can replace the spotlight. There we go. Paula, we're seeing you now.
So we don't see it if we're not producing.
You should see it side by side if you're in speaker view. If you're in speaker view, I just put Paula there.
If you're a host or co-host, you can show it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And it should be host and co-host because I have a group of people that are co-hosts with me often. or that I'm co-host with, and we do this on a regular. And so I was co-host yesterday, and I was able to do this for folks.
Yeah, I just learned that because about a month ago I tried it and they didn't have it for co-host. So I think they added that. Good.
Yeah. All right. So the good stuff. I'm still in. Okay. And I'm still just making sure so people can see I have now Tina and Brandon side by side. So and it's you can see it. If people say they don't see it side by side, then they're not in the speaker mode, or they do not have the latest update on their Zoom. Okay. So it is based on the person, not on us. Do you mute the audience during a show? Generally, yes, I mute the audience during a show. But then but what I don't do is I don't take generally do not take away their ability to unmute themselves. If you get on my nerves and you start making all kinds of mistakes, and all of a sudden I hear the dog barking and the da 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 and the da 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 da, I'm taking away that opportunity for y'all to unmute yourselves. All right, but that's just a loving thing. But you can, I do it during it, and every now and then there's somebody that has a sound, and if they're laughing at the right times, and I don't hear anything else, I don't mind. And there's others that, have 4 or 5 or 6 people, or have all the storytellers, that all the storytellers stay open so that people can hear them and laugh. Is the storyteller supposed to write his own intro? Okay. Yes and no. You want information from them.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Howsoever, you know your audience.
Okay.
And so there's going to be times where they say, and I want you to say this, and this, and like that. You don't have time to say all that. Don't have time to say. Not only that, you don't want to say all that. You don't want the audience to, or you get to that time of the day, and like if if they're the very first person on, you might have some time to go, oh, and they did this, they did, but then by the time you get to the end of the program, you might not have that time anymore. And like, I'm not gonna be able to tell you about that right now, but I am gonna make sure I introduce this part, and I'll make sure that that's mentioned afterwards.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So would you double spotlight while introducing, or just after they have told the story? I generally do my double spotlighting only after the story.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. And again, because it's not about me. So the moment I start talking about them, then it's all about them and whatever. Like sometimes I'll put up a screen that has their picture on it or something like that. But it's all about them. Once I start introducing them, it's all about them. And then afterwards, I take just a little bit of it, but that's only so I can say how wonderful they are and amazing, and and that we can just talk a minute. Sheila, what about chatting during Teller's performance? I don't care, because if you don't want to see the chat, put the chat down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The chat you don't have to see the chat. If the chat disturbs you, click off chat.
Somebody asked me a question and I didn't know the answer, and I haven't had a chance to check, but when you private chat somebody, say I'm private chatting with Linda, and you save the chat, do you see the private conversations?
I do not, and have never seen the private conversations of other people that don't include myself. Now, if I save my chat, and then I send my chat without taking out the direct messages, then you'll see all the direct messages that I received. But if Linda, that I received. So if Linda writes to you right now, Muriel, and says, oh, Sheila is still talking. Then when I get to the chat and I go home, I will never see that, which is good. Because then I'd have to say something to Linda, that would just be lovely.
Exactly. Well, we had that conversation the other day, and
it is, and if somebody accidentally writes you thinking they wrote somebody else, yeah, you're gonna see that.
Yeah.
But no, you do not see anybody else's direct messages that aren't coming to you. Unless they accidentally sent something to you, but it was meant for somebody else. Linda.
I
I just wanted to say, when you double spotlight someone at the end of their story, I've always enjoyed it when there's a little bit of a conversation between the two of you. If you're asking to tell her a question or something,
Mhm.
I kind of like that transition before you go to the next one.
It is really nice. It's a nice addition to that they've given us on Zoom. So I agree. And sometimes you can't do it because you kind of do have to go to the next, but just a little bit of conversation side by side is a really good connection. Do you leave time for audience reaction right after their story? I usually do. And just a simple, people are clapping and if somebody unmutes, like if you get me sometimes, I'll be, oh, I unmute for a moment to say, oh, that's wonderful. Yay, thank you. And then I mute myself back up and such. How do you manage that is over talking or keep speaking up? Manage someone that is over talking. Over talking. You're talking about in a presentation or something like that. So this happened the other day. And so I said, we have several things that we would like to have done. And I know that we're going to have time for questions and such at the end, but because we have a limited amount of time, let's go through all the rest of this presentation and then we'll have some time to talk. And then I will call on each person that needs the opportunity. Use your most diplomatic self. And if you get to the point where you have to kind of, say to somebody, I know you have lots of questions. I need you to hold up just a bit. Again, you're caring for your presenter. And sometimes caring for your presenter means you shut down somebody else for just a moment. But that's just a care. So I try to be as honest as I can with people as I'm doing this, Does that make sense, guys, when I say that I'm being honest? I'm caring. Okay, very good. All right. Do I have a half hour left, right, Sarah? Is this supposed to be an hour and a half, right? Good. That's good because I'm messing all kinds of stuff up. Y'all keep asking me questions. I put a photo of my grandson right by the camera. Yeah, I don't care how you get your eyes on the camera. Just get your eyes on the camera. Just stay there. And it looks weird because our cameras are in weird places sometimes. And so it feels really weird if your camera's over there that you're looking at your camera and you're like, that's just weird because all the people are here and your camera's over there. Eventually you might want to put the camera and the people in the same place. But if you can't, look at your camera, never at your gallery. Okay. All right, y'all have been so good. All right, we're gonna go into breakout rooms. During the breakout rooms, we don't have to do any recording during that, Shags, because they'll be in breakout rooms. In your breakout rooms, there are people that have sent their bios, and you all are together with other people that have sent their bios. Hopefully you got your bio, the list of people in your room and their bio by email. You can probably check if you need to see that. In your room, those who have bios, you are to introduce each other to each other. So Linda, you're, if you're in the room with Lois, then you're gonna say, you'll have 3 people in your room. One room has 4, and you'll decide who you're going to introduce based on the information in the bio and give each other some feedback. Please practice that opportunity to look in the camera, that kind of thing. If you did not do bios, you are also in a room together. You need to share 1 or 2 lines about yourself so that then you introduce each other to each other. Okay, so practice an introduction of each other. And then, just for fun, share your best intro that you've ever had or seen and your worst intro that you ever had or seen. And then we're going to talk about all that, okay? It is going to take me just a moment to get everyone into the 16 different rooms, although I've done most of you already, to do that. So during that time, I'm going to let Sarah unmute. And the great thing is I can actually do this. It's crazy. I've been doing this way too long. So I can actually fill out breakout rooms while I'm answering questions. So, but I just need for Sarah to send me the questions so that I can do this correctly. And then as I get your breakout room together, then you might be disappearing, but I don't know about that yet. So if you have other questions, I will be glad to answer them while I do this. I'm sorry, there's a person here from 773-723-0322. Who are you? Okay. 773-723-0322. Okay, don't know who that is. They'll be the last one. Nina asked if we could put the instructions in the chat. Sarah, would you mind doing that? Sarah or Shags, would you mind doing that and the introduce each other using the bios you have, or collect information about each other, introduce each other, and then share a worst and a best as far as emceeing. Okay.
How much time do we have, Sheila?
Let me see. Good 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. And so as well, or as soon as I can get you in, and then to about 5:15. So, so let me go over here and just make sure this is right. All right, Janice and Queen Judith. Okay.
Okay. So
And-
introduce each other. So with the bios, if we have them, if not, we'll tell each other a few things and then take turns
Mhm.
again introducing each other so we can practice.
Yeah.
And then the worst or best experiences we've had being introduced or that we watched happen.
Yes, indeed. You are all over it. And and then are there any other questions while I'm finishing this up? And the reason, and let me tell you what I learned. So there is a way that when people register for a room on Zoom, register to go to a program on Zoom, that you can go to Zoom and you can pre-put people into their rooms, in breakout rooms. And so that is what I attempted to do. But that is when I also learned that if you go through Event Combo or Eventbrite, you register over there, not actually in Zoom, and then it doesn't work. So that is what I learned. So that's why I had all spaced out and ready to go. And I was like, oh, I can't do it because I couldn't do that then. So that's why I'm doing it right now. And so that's
And a
why
wonderful job you're doing.
Oh, you are very good at this. You are practicing quite well. And I apologize it's taken me so long to do this, but
Come up. They want to know how
Yes,
long
they
should
did.
intros be when they're in the breakout rooms?
She said about 15 minutes.
No, that's how long you have. How long should they do the introduction?
Oh,
10 seconds, 15 seconds?
well, I'm gonna put that on you, but and are you talking about now? Is that a question for in the room right now
That was
or
a
in the
question from-
future?
That was a question from somebody in the chat. How long should our intros be?
Discretion. Just like you would if you were going to be someplace, introducing them. Again, remember, it's not all about you. And so I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna say use discretion when you do this. I will tell you the only people that I really give a larger Muriel, Samia, Jacqueline, give a larger thing to, a larger introduction to, are youth. I brag on youth like they are, God's gift to earth and heaven. I just brag on them and brag on them and brag on them because I think that we need to do that for youth. And if they do it for a long time or a short time, I just really brag on them a lot. So if that makes sense. But beyond that, I try to keep it as shorter as possible. So I am so sorry this has taken me so long. I am so apologetic for both of this. It's coming along. And you know what I need to do? I need to do something. Hold on, wait a second.
No worries, no worries.
Oh, you say that now. 1 second. Save. Okay. Continue. All right. Shags.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you see the breakout room thing?
No, because I don't believe co-hosts have access. to
Okay,
it.
so the co-hosts don't have that. All right, I'm sending you something right now. Can you check your email? It is going to have a list, and I'm just going to need you to read it out to me, and that way I can do this quicker and get everybody in their right room. Okay, thank you. Awesome. Okay. This is the part where I usually have good music or something like that. And all I have is me, which I should have something planned for you and I don't have. Okay. Did you get it, Boo?
Just came in.
All right. Start. Oh man, I hope I sent you the right one.
you
Mm-hmm.
want- Do you want me to tell you a question or not while you're working?
Oh yeah, you can tell me questions. And wait a minute, one second. Can you start where it says 7? Can you see that?
7, yes.
Okay. Ooh, okay. Wait, hold on the questions for a second. So on 7, can you tell me the names in 7?
Linda Gorham,
Uh-huh.
Sharon Elwell, and Lois.
Okay. All righty. Okay, now we're kicking. We burning with gas now. Room 8.
Brandon Spars,
Mm-hmm.
Kwanzaa Brewer,
Mm-hmm.
Carol Bennett.
I don't think Carol's here. Are you under Randy? Carol, are you under Randy? Okay, got it. Okay, good. And then 9.
Linda Wright,
Linda Wright.
Deborah Strayhorn,
Gotcha.
Andrew Loffer,
All righty. Woohoo! We're rolling now. All right, room 10.
Sarah Addison,
Yeah, Sarah. Yep, gotcha.
Nina Lasiga,
Uh-huh.
Michael Lewis,
All right, Michael Lewis. All right. Hey, Michael, it's good to see you. All right, room 11.
Angela James,
What? Okay, keep going.
Dana Sherry, Gwendolyn.
Dana Sherry.
Mhm.
And
I
who?
believe Angela had to leave.
Okay, that's fine. And Dana Sherry and who?
Gwendolyn Lewis,
Gotcha. All right, room 12.
Tony,
Uh-huh.
Sarah Brady,
Uh-huh.
Eleanor Glass,
Uh-huh.
Andrea Young.
Got it. All right, we're almost there. Ooh, I'm sorry, seeing the names just disappear from me. Except that name didn't disappear from me. There we go. There you are. Very good. All righty. Ooh, you're all about ready. Oh gosh, this is gonna be good. Now, why didn't I think of this originally? Because I'm used to doing everything by myself. And I forget to ask for help. Okay, go next.
Nina Donner,
Uh-huh.
Ryan Thomas,
Got it.
Simone Rawlings, and
Don't think she's here or that person's here.
Lynn Ford.
Not here. Okay. And room 14.
Linda Yamato,
Okay, got it.
Morris Gordon,
Who?
Dolores Gordon,
Okay. Nope, I hear. And
and Mike Cox.
all right. And then I have some people left. So I'm gonna add another room. And those people all go in the other room. Whoops. There we go. Karen Amano, Malcolm Grissom, Stephanie Davenport. I'm opening the rooms. I'm releasing the rooms. I will see you by about 20 after.
Oh,
Enjoy. Accept the request coming to you. Yeah, y'all were over there. Did you?
It was too short. It
Do you
was
feel
too
like a rock-
short.
Too short? Okay. Do you feel like a rock star? Do you feel like somebody really loved you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
absolutely.
If you don't, you're gonna have to go talk to that person and say, you didn't give me enough love today. I needed some more love to be given to me. All right. A couple of quick things, and then I do hope that you had fun. I do hope that you enjoyed it. I do want to ask about that, but before I do, I don't want to forget to do this. Storytelling Association of California has a wonderful initiative and programming called SLIC, which stands for
Stories.
Stories in living color.
Thank you. Stories in Living Color. Silk, not slick. It's silk. I always say it wrong. Stories in Living Color, SILC. And this particular program, which was a dream program started by Rick Roberts, who's part of the board there, and the board has been very instrumental in this, has been connecting mostly African Americans and African American and white storytellers to really begin to have conversations together and then think of stories that they might be able to do together as they're learning about each other and as they're learning about each other and after conversations. But we're hoping that this will become more than just black and white. It will also be also look at various other connections of people, ethnicities, and other cultures connecting to one another to be able to share in this. And looking for folks that are willing to take a chance and work with somebody else that they don't know yet and kind of get to know them a lot better or you might know them but not know them as well, and really talk about through your stories, letting your stories be able to share about some of the differences that you may have seen, and yet some of the connections that you've seen. It's a really wonderful thing to do. I had the joy of doing this with Sarah Armstrong, and I did this together at the first show. It was amazing. And I've been very privileged to work with white storytellers on collaborations. Sarah Brady, who may or may not still be on here, is still here. Very good. She and I have a long time collaboration on the civil rights movement that we've done for years. And it started out just with conversation. So I really would ask that you would take a look at that. And just just so you know, Rocky Ross will be the person that's going to be now providing storytelling coaching to any pairs that come together. So you'll have a chance to really work on your story and kind of get some really good things, because she's going to be the MC for it. So you'll get that. And as a storyteller, you would get $100 for the work that you do on that. Plus you get free story coaching from a really good coach. So really, I hope that you will think about that and think about connecting together. And is that right? Rupa and Karen are coming up in February and presenting. Oh my gosh, that is so delightful.
I think that's happening. Yeah. We're
Okay.
working on that. Yeah.
That's because for me, when I first met Rupa was the first person that introduced me to the fact that I didn't understand that Southeast Asia, I didn't know that existed, what Southeast Asia meant. So she was the one, and when you do these things, you get to really ask those kind of questions that may sound really stupid, but one of the things I learned in each of the programs I do, I have to ask stupid questions. I have to admit when I make a mistake and when I do something, or if I'm learning things. I just ask. That's all I can do. And if you know, Lynn Cabral, up until I had a conversation with Lynn Cabral on camera in front of everybody, I was telling everybody that Lynn Cabral was from Cape Verde, which is in the West Indies. And then when he came up there and he said, and Cape Verde, of course, from Africa. And I'm like, he did not just say that. He is not from Africa. Honey, I stopped listening to him. I'm glad I was on mute. I went over I'm like, oh my gosh. I just told everybody he's from the West. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. But what you do with the so embarrassed is you go and say, I am so sorry. I just learned this. I am so sorry. And you know what? That connects you with the audience again, because they make the same mistakes. But yes, definitely check out Silk. If you are interested, please contact anyone on the board at Storytelling Association of California, and they will connect you if you are a person that already knows who would like to work with. No, you don't have to be a member. Please come. It is really an awesome program to attend, but it is even more awesome to work with somebody who is not from where you are and really connect and begin to tell stories. It is an amazing thing, and it helps the other people that are listening. It will change your life. All right. I have a couple moments left, and if anyone needs to go after 5:30, I understand. But I do want to hear a couple of people tell me what it was like to introduce somebody. We'll start with the people that had a bio in hand. What did it feel like, in a couple of statements, what did it feel like to introduce somebody? All righty, I don't see any hands raised. Okay, Gwen Lewis.
Yes, I enjoyed introducing Dana Sherry. I really did. Dr. Dana Sherry. And I did all the proper things. I first introduced myself and then asked her about pronunciation of some languages I had never heard of in my life. However, it was good to be familiar with standing up. If you had to stand, but to be familiar with that people can bring a lot of life into you if they are jovial or upbeat themselves. And that helped. She was very open, and we were able to do a good teamwork of introducing each other.
And Dana was the other person that wanted to speak. So Dana.
Obviously, we had a really good time. It was wonderful working with Gwen. There were two things that came up. One, I felt like I could give her such a better introduction after we'd spoken, even just for a few minutes. It just going from the page. It was really hard to know what was most important to her to put that out there for the audience. So the conversation was a joy, but also really helpful as an MC. And the other thing that came up is that it's hard. We didn't have an imaginary context for what kind of a concert it was that we were doing the introduction for. And that also would have really shaped the way we chose to present one another. So we, learned a lot about what we need to know before we can do it.
Very good. Yes, introducing somebody for children is very different than introducing somebody to adults. It's very different to do it in a festival setting versus a more intimate setting or a huge, bigger setting. So introducing people when there's 3 people in the show that are presenting is different than when you're introducing 28 people when they're in a setting. Okay, so that's really good. That's good information. All right, somebody from the group that didn't have anything in front of them, somebody share. Okay, Muriel.
So I really enjoyed introducing Jackie Jonas. And what I realize is how important it is when you're asking somebody about themselves is to really actively listen and kind of flesh out what the important nuggets are and the atmosphere. And I think when she introduced me, she kind of captured something about me, and she said that I did the same for her. And I think the biggest compliment was that she said, "Oh, you really listen well." And I think that's really the key to being able to do this well.
I think you are right on target with that. Listening is really important. And that's great. That's great. That's good. All right. Someone want to tell us? Thea, yes.
Hi, right off the bat, I did not ask how to pronounce the name that looked like it was an easy to say name, like Sarah Brady, but it was a hard N instead of a hard I instead of a soft I. So that was really important that you brought that up and never assume. We didn't have any bios, and I think we all rolled well together, but excellent class, by the way. Thank you.
All right, welcome. All right, we're just about to leave, and if you need to go, that's fine. But I'd love to hear a worst story first. Oh, one of those worst story kind of things that we talked about. Would somebody like to share theirs or share the one that they heard in the classroom? It means you can share somebody else's too, so that's fine. I'm looking, Ed, okay? And Ed and then Mindy, as I know her, but she's called Minna here. Ed?
I have the worst story of one event where I was introducing people on Zoom and I wasn't well prepared enough, and I had to read my notes. I had to go down and look at refer to my notes. I was so embarrassed. That was my worst experience.
Good. That's a good worst experience. Something else, just as a reminder for worst experience, is don't overdo a person. Okay. The reason I asked for 150 words is because that's about right. You don't need to do much more than that. What you don't do is say, I am so excited. I'm going to introduce to you Kwanzaa Brewer. Kwanzaa Brewer grew up in da-da-da-da-da. And then she started this. And when she finished high school, she went over to here. And then she went to college. And we're so excited because, for the last 10 years, she's been telling stories all over the United States of America. She tells stories in this place, that place. And, she's been at this and that and that. And now she is and you're just like, oh my gosh. I mean, when I get an introduction like that, I'm like, just shut up and let me get on stage. I don't know. Or don't do this. Please don't do this. Linda Yimoto is the best storyteller, best Asian storyteller I've ever seen. All of her Asian stories are so amazing that when you hear her Asian stories, that you just want to go on and on because her Asian stories are just awesome. She is a practiced person in Asian stories. And when you hear this Asian story, it's going to be amazing. And what she's telling is Hansel and Gretel. Okay, so do not set up people, somebody that you set up that might be, many of you know who Bill Lepp is. Bill Up actually has serious stories. So after you finish introducing Bill Up as the funniest guy you'll ever hear in your entire life, he will send you into stitches. And then he goes, I'm telling the story about a man who died in World War One. And they're all like, okay. So just give it, don't set the expectations up, like that. And so just watch ourselves as we do it, because we may know this person really well. And we're like, oh, they just make me laugh all the time. Like Brandon, he makes me laugh all the time, but he also does extraordinary other stories. So I may say that, but I'm also going to say he does other stories that really open up the heart to other things he does. So I want to make sure I do that. Mindy, I can't hear a word you're saying because you are muted.
Oh, it does that by itself as if by magic. So here's one from Joanne, my partner, and she was asked to get on stage there and introduce an MC, and she'd never done it, and she was told to hurry it up, hurry along. It's totally out of context. So I was blanching at that one. Here's mine. That my first year was Storytellers of San Diego. We had our big festival, and I was to MC and gather the storytellers for personal narrative. There was an edgy group, and we weren't agreeing exactly, but we worked it out. And I had invited a couple people. Only one person I had not really heard tell, and I had been asking him for months, come on, what are you going to tell? Give me a little sample. Sat at his foot. Yeah, it was going to be about how he impersonated Van Gogh for 6 months. Wow, what a story that would be. Walks up there and he says a 4-letter word beginning with F at a public library, and I'm standing off to the side. I was flat-footed, I was winded, and I was holding on to my core. And then he looks over at me and goes, now what was I supposed to talk about? Okay, worst time ever.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Hellfire. Okay,
Yeah.
one from Rupa, and then I have to ask you about your best because we're not going to leave on the worst. Rupa?
I have a quick question, Sheila. So
yes, please.
Do we tell a little bit about the story or let the story speak for itself?
I sometimes will tell the title of the story, and that's usually it. Sometimes just the title. If I need, sometimes I'll ask for, if anybody's worked with me, they know I ask for a 1-line description, but that's usually for marketing purposes, not for me on stage. I also want to give room that if somebody needs to change it, they can just say, well, that's what I was going to tell, but I changed my mind, and stuff like that. Cause that happens like constantly and such like that. And don't get weirded out when that happens. It just does. It really does when you get towards the end of the program. And you'll ask Donald Davis, so what story are you going to tell? And he's like, I got to hear what everybody else is going to say. I got to hear everybody else, because he's going to tell his story based on what all the other stories are about. And he's going to tell the story based on how much time is left. So he will literally redo his whole story thought process just so that he can kind of meet whatever themes seem to be coming through. And so you're never going to get him to tell you what story it is. And that's okay. All right. Okay. Somebody tell me a best MC, and then on 2 people, and then we will leave. Okay. Don't see anybody on that side. I got to make sure I have 2 pages worth of people, so I'm trying to check and see. Nobody has anything good. Come on now.
Oh.
My God, tell me something good. Okay. Newt. Undo.
Well,
yeah, you go. Yeah.
I got it. I have heard Connie Reagan Blake introduce folks for years at the National Storytelling Festival, and it would be, if we're talking about MCs and we were talking about great MCs, it wouldn't be right if we didn't mention her name. It's great.
She is extraordinary. Another one of those people that you just like, I think she likes me.
Right.
She likes me. And
Right.
It feels so good. Oh my gosh. All right, one more feel good. She is a good feel good. Yes, Brandon.
The best introduction I ever got was from you, Sheila. You did everything that you told us to do in your workshop, and now I see you do it for everybody. But I still believe every word you said about me.
Oh, sorry.
Well, that's good. It worked. No, I'm teasing. No. Brandon is really as awesome as I hope that I made him sound. So thank you all so much. If you would, I would hope that you will consider being a MC for Stories in Living Color, for being a storyteller with Stories in Living Color. Artists Standing Strong Together, still doing programs. If you are interested in looking at possibly being an MC or a tech host, you can email me. Do not put it in the chat. I don't see it in the chat. I love you. Don't do that. Thank you for coming today. I really hope that this gives you some ideas of what to do and to continue to do, and also hopes enhances. And just a reminder, it's not about you. You are the most important, unimportant person in the entire room, but you set the tone, you make the pace, and you make people feel like rock stars. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
so much.
And as the
Thank you.
speaker must always reply in their first comment, of all the introductions I've had, that certainly was the most recent. I attribute that to past International Rotary President Cliff Doctorman of
That's
Morocco.
wonderful. That's great. I'll be here for another few minutes. Please feel free to go. But if somebody has a question I didn't get to, please feel free to. I don't think Shags will completely kick me off yet. So,
Shall I continue the recording, or should?
no, I would take the recording off. I think. So, somebody had another question before you, but